Did you go there last night? Is that where you went? Because I was like, where did they go? They weren't on the highway with me.
We're talking about this live. What do you mean
Yeah.
on the highway?
I was driving down the highway. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that blue vehicle pass yet. I don't know where they
No,
are.
we sat a little bit because why did we sit and wait? There we sat and
Wait for
waited
everyone to
for
leave. Get
that was part of it, but
frisky.
there was no yeah, for World War Z. No, I thought there was another. We had the stupid hallway like just future technology. So what it does is every half an hour the car would be like, oh, you're using a lot of battery life, let's power down for you and save it all up. And so like 3 times during the movie we had to, and it would suck because the car would power down, but then you can't just turn it on to get like the radio, you have to turn it on fully. So three
Are
times
you
we had
the
to shine our
bastard who
light.
kept putting the lights on the screen? I was like, I
There
can't
was
see shit.
multiple people. There was multiple people because there was one to the left of us, and then there was one guy behind us that happened twice. So, and I think it's just because we'll have cars like, and I was so mad. It happened the first time, like literally in the middle of the opening scene. I'm like looking through, YouTube, yeah, I guess YouTube and Google to find some solution, but no, people just complain. I guess it's a thing that the Ford Explorer 2021 does, and people hate it if they're trying to like listen to music while they're camping because it turns down. Like, I get it because it is like a smart thing for the car to do, but it's like it should have a turn off feature, but it doesn't. So that was annoying. But I'm so glad we sat in the front seat because we were gonna sit in the back, but it was cold, so we sit in the front. So I was like, man, if we would have been the back and having to run back every time, I would have been so. Actually, no, we would have just blinded the people behind us. Actually, yeah, they would have wanted like, oh, we would have not even known. But yeah, so it was just 3 times. Luckily, we mastered it, so whenever it would happen, Emily would just switch off right away. But yeah, we had no choice. It would just turn on. It would say like, oh no, we got to save your battery. So
That's horrible. Jeez.
yeah, so I like the drive-in, but I don't need to see it for every single movie. But hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 392nd episode of the GeekVerse podcast. Oh boy, what am I? I am gonna kick Clay's ass, gonna kick his tiny little ass. June 5th. We have a lot of stuff going on, but yes, I am the Clown Prince podcast now, and I'm joined by the one and only.
I am the whose boat was it? Taylor Field.
Very fitting. I saw that nickname, like, oh, that makes complete sense. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, well, you might not know from the nicknames, but the titles, we are reviewing A Quiet Place Part 2. As always, we'll start off with our non-spoilers portion. So if you haven't seen the movie, I know there's lots of people that still don't, especially in Canada, don't have theaters open, stuff like that. We'll do like a 10-15 minute non-spoilers, just our thoughts. Should you see it? Should you skip it? Whatever. We'll do an ad break. And then when that happens, we'll jump into spoilers. So lots of fair warning, but we have lots of stuff going on, especially June. June is like a busy, packed month. But Taylor, where can they find all that packed stuff?
All packed. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse is our Twitter, and GeekVerse is our Facebook. Be sure to, well, I always default to that because there's always a poll going on, but I'm not doing a poll. I decided I was, but I'm saving it for after because it's just too busy. I did, however, do a Camp Cretaceous Season 3 review earlier. Like some sheer force of, I don't know, the universe just let me have a free half an hour to do it. And it's out there.
Taylor's like a ping pong ball in his life. He's going all over the place. He's working on 5-hour sites. He's planning a wedding, all this stuff. He has a stream coming up. So, and that's the most important thing. June 5th, we have a stream coming up for the Palestine Children Relief Fund. This is a fund that just helps out children, people that have lost their homes, limbs, injuries, family members. I'm going to be releasing a cast Tuesday about why we picked it and some of the other events, but it's honestly just to help out kids. That's kind of like Extra Life, where that helps on the medical side. This helps people that just get back on their feet after some really bad stuff happens. So, as I just kind of teased, we have 2 events out so far. One of them is Taylor versus Kirklin for the sports title in a best of 3. It's NHL, Need for Speed, and Mortal Kombat. Is Mortal Kombat a fighting game? Who knows? But or is it a sports game?
It's
Who
definitely
knows?
a fighting game.
It's a fighting game,
that up.
but it's you'll find out why, because maybe the third match they're gonna kind of use for something else, which would be what me and Clay are doing, but I'll reveal that in the future. But yes, Clay, if you've not tuned in the drama, just go to mine and GeekVerse or his Twitter feed, and you can just see what's happened. Last week, he was trash talking me. He said some kind of bad thing, so I had to suspend him from DC Alliance. He kept trash talking. So now here we are, June 5th. He is making his Gauntlet debut, and this is the first time ever because no one's made their debut virtually, Taylor. I thought about that. No one's ever played Overboard. So, and everyone's giving me shit. You can go on my timeline, like, why is it non-title? Why is it non-title? I'm scared. No. the first person their first match and just gets a title match. Not a thing that happens. If he were to beat me, sure, we can open a conversation. But the good thing is he's not. So that's going to be good. And like I said, Tuesday, I'm going to be releasing a cast. That's just a quick overall what the schedule is. We're going to be going about 14 hours. We're starting 9 a.m. PST, and that's going to kick off right with the sports title, actually, with Kirklin and Taylor. And it's going to be a fire matchup, I think. They've had multiple like team matches and other one-on-one matches, but in the sports title league, I did win back. You guys are 1-for-1. Like, you beat him in that Halo 3-way, and he beat you in like COD, and you've beat him in COD. But as far as just sports titles go, you're 1-for-1. You've beat him for 1, he's beat you for 1. So it's the rubber match for that. So
I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, as far as like our matchups go, he got absolutely creamed by me in our last charity stream. So I don't think he's recovered. I think he's still got some recuperating to do.
We'll see. So it's going to be interesting. And in June, also after the charity stream, that's going to be all the pin posts right now. But after June 5th, I just recommend go to Twitter, Facebook to look at our pin posts because we have, I'm not even going to shout all out. We have so much stuff going on. We have the, We have the GUA, like the Geek Ultimate Alliance 1 year anniversary after 9 cast. We got Loki debuting. We got E3 coming up. We got Conjuring. We have Fast 9. We have so much stuff happening. We got all the spin-offs cast. So just go there, and most importantly, go to Patreon support so you get ad-free exclusive early episodes. This week, these guys are recording the last retrospective for Harry Potter. They've reviewed all 8 films, and it's up there for a year early. So there's just tons of stuff popping off there and lots of good things. But Taylor, is there anything else to shout out before? Oh, I guess if you're watching live, release on the 30th late night, so this will probably be for PST. You can catch the replay. Me and Taylor are gonna be playing some Knockout City online a little bit later, but that's gonna be on the Twitch. Kirkland's taking 1 more week off, and then next weekend why are you laughing, Kirkland?
He's taking all this time off. Yeah,
we're gonna make up for it because next weekend will be a 14-hour stream. But yeah, we're gonna play some of that. I'm looking very forward to it. I haven't got to play much of it, but it's gonna be fun, so check that all out. Taylor Field, let's get your thoughts on, because give your quick overall brief thoughts on A Quiet Place, the first one, because you and I were not on that review because you had not. There was some
sitting outside of Dylan's house during the review while they were inside doing it, and they didn't tell me what was the plan. And my God,
and this, I believe, the first one came around. I think it was close to. I don't know when. I was either a WrestleMania or Gwen. For some reason, I feel like it was maybe Gwen Kidkem's because I remember I missed a few movies. But either way, so what were your brief thoughts on the first one, and how did number 2 compare?
So, yeah, I mean, the film was I never really understood much from the trailers. Like, it just. I wasn't sure, is it spiritual? Is it a haunted movie? What's really going on? And then it was like some dystopian alternate universe in our history. I don't know. It was interesting and intriguing. And then finally watching the movie, I love that it was aliens. Like, I'm assuming aliens. I mean, I guess it's up to interpretation what you want to say it is at this point. But like, I just found I looked them as like aliens, I guess. But it was just these apex predators. I just thought it was super cool. They were terrifying. The sounds they make freak me out to my core. And it was just terrifying. And that first movie had me so excited, and realizing this was initially just a one-off, I thought, okay, like this is like a great one-off film at this point, but then I'm going right into like another part. I thought it's fantastic. Like, let's keep this ball rolling. And again, obviously, from the trailers, like it continues right after the events of the first one, obviously. And I love that. I think it's fantastic to keep it going as it is.
Yeah, not Jessica in our group chat. It takes place 7 years later, right? No.
No, she needs to rewatch that first one.
Who are those kids? I was answering all these questions like it's literally the same cast and everything. It's funny.
I particularly this movie, Quiet Place Part 2. Now, before the whole lockdown and everything, as soon as for stuff, I get my tickets. Now, I bought my tickets for Mulan and this. This was the one, along with Mulan, that got away. But I mean, Mulan came on Disney Plus, but this was the white whale. This was my Moby Dick to my Captain Ahab. Like it got away and it wasn't coming back. They kept moving the dates around, and I had to get a refund for my tickets for this, and I just wanted to see this movie. And now finally, a year and a couple months later, we saw it. And to be honest, I think they did a lot of things right. I really do. Like, sequels can be rocky, but like it has
a dramatic pause.
Yeah. It had me super, super excited. I wasn't sure how I would like it begin being in a driving experience. I've never done a driving experience before, but I thought it was great. I do want to see this again in an actual theater. It is just the aesthetic and everything that they had was terrifying and freaky, but I can't remember his real name, but the guy from Red Eye, Scarecrow.
Do you not remember, or do you just not know how to pronounce it?
28 Days Later. I just don't remember
Killian
his name.
Murphy.
That's the one. I think he was fantastic in this film. I really loved him. And again, I think John Krasinski just he brought some good stuff to the table here, leading this or directing, I guess I should say, this film. So yeah.
So I had two questions. One, I was going to ask you to recommend it. I feel like that's clearly you'd recommend it, so that's kind of no point. For non-spoilers, what would you say? Also, you just saw us last night, but what would you say you prefer between the two of them?
I mean, it's hard because you can watch the second one. Well, actually, you could watch the second one, and I feel like it could stand on its own. You wouldn't necessarily need to watch the first one if you had to only watch one.
You'd be missing a few things.
Yeah. I mean, you'd wonder, like, well, what happened to the dad? Did he just leave? Like, he run off? I mean, but I would probably take this one. I like the level of action. I like the growth from the kids. I feel like they became much more prominent in their own right in this. And there were several different arcs that unfolded all cohesively at the same time at moments as well, that just keep you on your edge. Like you're dealing with one thing and then you're jumping to the next problem with somebody else. And it's like you're trying to keep up and it's so stressful. And they don't overdo it. They do call back to certain elements that they capitalized on in the first film. They use that again in this movie, but they don't rely on it. They don't use it as a crutch. They create so many new moments that they use, and it's full of jump moments where you jump even in your car with the listen to the speaker. It's like you jump at times, and I think it's great. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, so I'm much of the same, that I loved the first one. I had not seen it for a while, and I remember we were getting close to Golden Geeks, and I had not put it off, but just like, I'll get to it. And then I remember watching, be like, wow, this is fantastic. And you can go back and listen. I think maybe me and Taylor were the only ones, because I think Kirklin had seen it, and then the other three with Jessica, Dylan, and Briggs were like, nah. I wanted it in the top 5 for Golden Geeks, that first movie, and I'll probably be fighting for this one too, but obviously we still got a lot of movies. But so I love that first one. Krasinski really surprised me because, like, he's just this guy from The Office, right? And I like him enough, but I think people might think I'm not a big fan of him because I don't want him as Reed Richards. It's not that. It's just like, I think he's a good actor and everything, but I'd never been like, oh man, I love John Krasinski. I appreciate his directing much more than his acting, to be honest, but he's still a good actor. So this one, I pretty much absolutely loved it. I'm very positive on it. It's definitely in my top 3 for films of the year. Eventually, I had it at number 1 last night, and then I was like, and I thought about it's kind of number 2 right now, and I'll get into why I have a few problems with it. But overall, just like acting is just through the window. Like Emily Blunt and Killian Murphy have been doing this for a long time, so it's not a big surprise. But these kids, like, obviously, this is the thing we talk about all the time. Kid acting nowadays is just so much better than it was like look in the 90s. All you had was like Macaulay Culkin, and that was it. Like, he was the one good actor. He's like, oh, this is a kid who can act, and he's good. And now it's like Stranger Things, like Logan, this, like some of the MCU stuff. Like, I'm trying to think of other movies that have come out with kids recently, but they're just so good, all these kids that they're finding nowadays. So they deliver. Especially, I can't remember the girl's real name, but the girl that plays the daughter, she's just like a standout. She was a standout on the first one, but she's a standout here again. So that's good cinematography, score, like everything that was great about the first one, it had that here, and just the tone and the tension. Because you would think, like, okay, the first one has a lot of clearly /aliens, you can't make sounds or they're going to come get you. So it's like, okay, how much more can you do that? How much more tension can you build? And they do a really good job. They add some new elements that I thought were well done, but not overused as well, which I like. I think my only complaints are there's a few kind of classic horror, like, why would you do that type of moments, but to me, I thought it was like a great sequel, almost a perfect movie. Like, I literally was watching it almost in the back half. I'm like, I think I have to give this a, I can't remember last year if I gave anything at 10. Like I remember there was one year I think it was 2017. It's like 10. This year, obviously a little less movies, and last year a lot less movies. But I was like, oh, this is like, so far I have no cons. I have zero about it. And then yeah, sure, there's some characters make some dumb decisions, but you kind of go, okay, it's like some of them are younger kids, and some of them are, it's a weird situation, so you don't know. But for me, my biggest con is, we'll get to it in the spoilers, but there's just two choices at the ending I really, really disliked, and it's like really grind my gears, and it didn't ruin the movie for me, but when the movie's so good, when it's just that good, it's just like, oh man, you're so close. Like, as one of my classic analogies is, let's say you're just having a good time with someone in bed, and you're getting that finish line, it's all been great, and then right when you're at the finish line, that person stops, and they got to go like get the door or something, and it's like, you finished, but it was not the same experience because there's a big abrupt ending. And I think that's what was. There was two things that I can buy some sort of, okay, might make a dumb decision, dumb choice either moment, but there was two moments at the ending where it wasn't just like that. It was just like plot points and character points that really didn't make sense. I mean, why would they act like this in the whole movie? They've acted another way, and I think it hurt the film. But and that's the tough part, because if it was like a con in the beginning or in the middle, I think I would have forgot about. But because it's literally like the last 10 minutes, some of the stuff goes down that I was left with the whole night. I was like, why did they do that? Why did they do that? Because to me, it was they're getting a home run and they hit a triple. But I still prefer the first one because I don't have as much big problems as I did with the first one. I won't say John Krasinski better than Killian Murphy, but I liked the family dynamic and I like the introduction to that world. So I think it's just that ending that I have a problem with this one that really bugs me. But other than that, I know I might sound negative, but the movie is it's a fantastic movie. They really did a good job. I'll be excited for part third, or part three, but the thing is the first one, part third, but I don't, we're gonna get it. I just don't know if I need it, and that's why I felt with the first one, and we'll get that in spoilers as well. Where it's fun. This movie felt a lot more of like a TV episode than a movie, and that's not a negative way, but just as far as some of the plot progression, I was like, okay, this feels very much like a middle chapter. So, anything you would want to say before we get into spoilers?
No.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take an ad break, and then after that, we'll get into spoilers. So if you've not seen this movie, leave now, come back when you have, or if you don't care, just simply follow along. So we'll be back in just a second. All right, we're back. So I'm going to start at the end, and the reason I want to start at the end is for two reasons. One is because people are probably like, well, what was he talking about? And two, I want to get my negative things out of the way. So, like I said, this is your last chance. If you haven't seen it, here we go. Excuse me. So, we have this big, and I love that. Okay, so the girl goes, she figured out the Beyond the Sea thing, which even though I have to ask you, so they're playing this music, right, to show them, like, okay, this is where the plot might be for the island for people to go meet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I assume it's just because they don't want bad people hearing, but how come they never just be like, how come there's never anyone on the radio being like, hey, we have like a safe haven here? Like, why isn't it like they have the podcasting radio gear? Like, why doesn't no one ever jump on and be like, hey, it's safe over here, Because
I think it's general, like you could get the wrong attention.
But what if the wrong attention still figures out the by the sea thing or over the sea, And
you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, so, and that's not a big con for me. That's just like something me and Emma were talking about. So anyways, the girl, she figures out that, okay, this must mean something because the coordinates match and maybe there's something safe there, or, every zombie monster movie, it's always like, well, maybe this is our chance, right? So, okay, she decides to go on her own. Killian Murphy, poor guy, just wants to be left alone. Emily Blunt just guilt trips the shit out of him. What if my husband was looking you in the eye saying this? And we'll get to all that. But anyway, so they end up, there's other stuff we'll talk about. They end up going on this adventure. They get to the docks. One thing I did really appreciate, because I was so worried. I remember when we talked about the trailer for Quiet Place Part 2, when Killian Murphy's like, there's people out there not worth saving. I just didn't want the Walking Dead route, where it's going to be more about the humans being the problem than the monsters, just because that we've seen that so much. Mm-hmm. So when they were getting kidnapped on the docks, like, man, the last hour of this movie is going to be Killian Murphy having to get her back. And I was so bummed. But then, super smart way, we'll talk about that after, how they get out of there. So I was like, this is great. Every time I was worried about the movie, it's like, oh no, they surprised me. So they want to get to this island because it's a radio broadcast, right? And we figure out in the first movie that, okay, when you put her hearing aid against it, it makes a screeching noise, and much like Venom in Spider-Man 3, it kills or can really hurt these monsters. So she wants to get there so she can broadcast it to everyone. So they do that. They get there. My two big problems are both with this issue that they get there. And you're telling me, Taylor, that you have a device that could kill or wipe out all these monsters, and you are going to sleep and wait till the morning to go to this radio broadcast? Are you shitting me? Now, in lots of other horror movies, this wouldn't be a problem, but because this movie I feel is so smart and so well thought out, the fact that no one just thought, hey, this doesn't make sense. And the thing that it was combined with the issue is the daughter. They wake up in the morning and she's just playing with another kid, hanging out. Like her brother, the baby and her mom are over there. Their lives could be at complete risk, and she's just hanging. And the only reason I would say that, because someone might be like, well, she's a kid, she was playing. No, early in the movie, she was so determined to get that island so she could help everybody. The fact that first thing when you get there, especially, I thought like, oh, is there gonna be some twist when they get to that island? Bad people, but who we'll talk about his death scene later. But like, he seemed like a good guy. He seemed like he would have helped. So if you would have said like, hey, let's get there right now, let's go, I would have bought it. My last point with I throw to you is like, if you still wanted the monsters to happen, then I think even budgetary wise, it would have been better. You could have had that boat come over still in the middle of the night. And I could have believed that they just got there, they're warming up, then they're going to go to the radio station and then have the monsters go there in the night. But to save that for the whole morning, they slept. And like I said, they're taking their time. That really bugged me, because I just thought this is a key that people out there could like literally imagine if that thing that happened with the aliens with Emily Blunt would have happened the night before, they're dead. But if that radio's not there, like they could be saving like dozens, hundreds of lives, but they decided not to get there, and there was no danger on the island. So I know I just had to rant about that, because people have asked me like, oh, what's the problem? And I'm like, I can't explain until you've seen the movie. I literally can't. It's not like it was a twist. It was just a clear 2-character or 3-character decision that really bugged me. So did it bug you at all, or did it not even come up to you when you were watching it?
I in retrospect, yeah, I mean, I didn't catch on to it.
Like Madison is on a different island and you're gonna sleep before you go and try this radio thing out, you know?
Yeah, I would just translate it as they went through hell and they finally just got to a point where they just can relax, and they just took it in stride. Like they're just, I could see maybe like fatigue or something. They're just like, oh my God, like, oh, it's just so happy and all.
Good luck, Emily Blunt. We'll be back for you soon.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's when you say that, it's definitely it definitely doesn't sound very good. Let's just leave them, because they could be struggling. They got a baby and everything like that. So
yeah, I think if it was him alone, but I think just because the daughter, who was so determined earlier, that's why I felt like a weird character thing, that she wasn't also determined to get that radio station right now. Like they had that car, I'm sure they had headlights. I'm sure they would have found that radio station okay. It didn't look like that big of an island, but so that's why it was really the whole drive back. I was like, why did they do this? Why didn't they? There's a few ways they could have changed this. They didn't need them to even sleep over or anything like that, but that happened, you know. So yeah. Where are you going to go next?
I'm down to keep talking about like this community and the guy. Like the guy who was like honking the horn, drove out of there with the guy. I thought that was great. I love that whole dynamic. The thing that I have a problem with is his complete shift, but I get it. He was probably in shock and just acted completely on impulse. And when he was there, the realization hit him, because he just like he got the guy there, but he just seemed totally, he was just like he didn't realize like what he did. It's like when you do something you regret, like if you kill someone and it just sweeps over you the realization, like, oh my God, like what the hell did I do? And he realized like, oh my God, I left my kid back there. Like what the hell did I just do? And like, oh, maybe we did lose it. I got to go back to my family. And I mean, I did chuckle when he got dragged out.
I did
like,
too, because I agree with you if like you can have that moment, but I just thought that he turned into like super dumb horror character of like he knows these things react on like sound, and he is yelling at the top of the lungs like, I need to get my family, and then like he just gets scooped. He's like, oh, like, well, now your family's screwed, like now you're done for. So like that's a like I said, I just feel like there was some moments even at the end when she was putting the radio to the like the actual thing, but she was like moving really slowly to it. It's like, why are we acting like this? Like, why are we going like and same thing with him. It felt like he needed to act like this, so we just got him like scared. I don't think he needed to die, but poor Jaimin Hansu got like he got pulled under and just not for him. But yeah, I liked this idea, and again, I like that it wasn't because when Killian Murphy's there in the morning and he sees the boat, at first I thought, oh no, are they going to say like these are the same people from the island? Like there's some connection. I was like, I don't want this community.
Same people coming from. Oh my God,
well,
that would be horrible.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's why I was like, I don't want this because it's just like we've seen that done a dozen times before. And I think because Walking Dead did it 5 million times when I watched. It's like I'm over like the human twist, but I like bars. New kind of canon, like these things can't swim. I like that because it gives you now another sort of piece of safety as far as okay, we can't get sound, so we gotta be quiet. But if we could find like this island, a boat, something like that, you could be safe. If you could find enough fuel or something to be on a boat, you could make it. So I liked that wrinkle of okay, there's another way. We didn't learn much about the community, but that's why I think you agree with me. This. And it's not a con against it, but it felt very like a setup for a finale for a TV show because it's still masterfully executed movie at times, but not that much actually happened in this movie. They like Emily Blunt made sure she got a piece of oxygen and they got to a different island, and that's all that happened in the movie. And that's fine because like the scenes when there's the monster or alien there, those go on for like 10 minutes, so it's like big set pieces every time. But when it ended, I was actually surprised. I was like, that's it? Like not in a way like I was bummed about some of those plot points earlier, but I was surprised like, oh, we're just ending here. And that's where I think I prefer the first one too, because it ended and you could do more, but I remember being like, you know what, I'm fine if we never go on. Where this movie I feel like specifically has a very Two Towers, like you have to have another one. Like they just got this community, they just did the radio thing, Emily Blunt's still alone with the baby, like it still feels like there's lots of loose ends still to be tied up, where the first one was okay, there's even then like technically the first one they had the Sundyne John Krasinski, but when they figured out that the hearing aid defeats the monsters, that could be the cure. Like that easily is the end of the whole like franchise, right? And I think that was the other thing. It was weird that the first movie ended with them in that room and they did the hearing aid thing, and that's almost exactly how this movie ended too. Like it was almost beat for beat the same thing of like slowing down the monster and going to kill it. I do like what you said. I like the kids. I really like the son finally like stepping up. I love that when he has the radio, he picks up the gun.
I'm just gonna say now, it was a hype moment. I'm just gonna say now, like his development was great. I legit thought he was gonna let his sibling die for a moment. Like when he took the mask off, I was like, this is making me a little unsettled. But when he put it back, I was so relieved.
I even questioned the sharing of the auction because like Emily was like, well, he needs to stay alive. I'm like, I guess so, but like, I don't know, like that baby needs it a bit more. And I think like, I don't know how the auction works, but I feel like he fainted like a little too quick. Like, I feel like he went
through at least, he had 20 minutes of air, I would say. And he went through all of it with how fast he was hyperventilating and that thing.
And even then, like when the doors closed, you're still going to have some air in there. It almost made it seem like when that door closed, the air got completely sucked out.
Because he kept heavily breathing and using it all up. Like he was wasting it.
Yeah, and and that kid, so I love that moment of him because I love like they shoot to Emily Blunt and she just has this look on her face of like, wow, like he's like growing up in front of my eyes, but in the worst ways because it's like he's becoming like this monster.
My son's becoming a man.
Yeah, in the way you don't want to see it, but like they have to, right? Because he has to start killing these things, whatnot. I wasn't, because majority of the mistakes in this movie are because of him. I don't mind that because they're kind of playing the young dumb kid or young emotional kid. I think there was a little too many on him. Like he made so many. I wish they maybe would have edited one or two. But at the same point, like I get that Emily Blunt had to go back for auction, and I guess because the movie world it worked out. I'm glad she did because those characters didn't fucking care. They didn't come back for her yet. They just say, oh, we're gonna sleep for a night, then we'll go get her. But like I really question the decision of Blunt's character, leave son to, like I get you want to go memorialize John Krasinski, but now's not the time. Now you got I'm sorry, you like to make this separate trek to go leave the ring. Like, no. You have if Killian Murphy was still down there,
on the way. I took it as it was in the direction they had to go to town because that's where they came back with the kid with the shuttle, right? So town was definitely that way.
Okay, fair enough. That I can accept that. If that's the case, that's geography. That's completely fine. But if she took like even if she took one left turn to be like, I gotta stop here. No, you gotta Killian Murphy's not there. But I like them being on their own little separate tracks.
I do want to say, um, now again, they showed the same general scenes in the trailer, but I was not prepared for when the boy was running and got caught in that bear trap. And like again, it's so you know the tone. It's a quiet movie, but when he started screaming, I
Oh,
was like
yeah.
holding my hand to my mouth, like no, like, and he was screaming.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's no way one of these things doesn't hear him. You just feel for him.
That was in the trailer because I feel like either I saw the trailer and forgot it, or I haven't seen all the trailers.
But it wasn't the trailer you're saying?
No, was it or was it
Oh
not?
no, I know,
Oh,
no,
okay.
because like I wasn't expecting. I just thought they were the worst of it was they triggered the little bottles dropping and they
Right,
just
yeah.
run for it. But no way, when that happened, like holy shit. And again, I mean, we'll touch back on the kids and the daughter, but Emily Blunt, like her acting was phenomenal. I just found like
yeah.
the way she interacted with the kids, she just delivered.
Oh, and that baby too. Great actor.
Oh my God, is that the same baby from the first movie?
I'm gonna say no, but no, that's what we but before, like the first one did that, and this one does is again like there's multiple scenes. There's that one, obviously what we talk about later on in the movie with the kid with holding the baby of like, yeah, there's the monster, but there's the tension of they go in the safe, the thing closes on them in the air. You have the very beginning, which I loved the flashback because I had a feeling like if you had a gun to my head, I would have went, I think John Krasinski will just be in it for that. But we've seen that before in movies where a character dies, but then the whole movie they use flashbacks for that character. So it's like, yeah, they died, but we still get to use them. I like that it was just the one scene, the one opening where Krasinski, that's it. Like, even if we do that again in part 3, I'd be fine. But it's like, he's an important character. It makes sense she should be there. I love seeing the kind of day one reflection of how it all went down. We knew we were going to get that in the trailer, but this was kind of like what you're talking about with the bear trap, like extended. We got to see both sides of the scenario. We got to see the ball game. I like the introduction to Killian Murphy and the whole dive thing. I loved getting back to the store and that old guy just like praying away and Krasinski like shuts his mouth. And it was so good though how they got there of like that girl who the phone went off. She kept trying to call her mom. So, but it was perfect. They set that up like she keeps trying to call her mom. So then like, yeah, the person probably who got her killed was her mom trying to call her and get back to her. And that was just like so well done. And that's where like for the majority of the movie, he's always laying these little breadcrumbs first. So it makes complete sense. Like even that dive thing of like Killian Murphy, if I imagine you've seen the movie, but if you don't remember, if you haven't, the flashback is like all these families are at the baseball game and everything like that. And Killian Murphy is friends with John Krasinski, but it feels like he doesn't really know their kids like that much. And obviously the daughter is deaf, so they do sign language. He doesn't know it. So he asks like what a dive is because he listens to the baseball game and she shows him like that's what dive is. And he's like, oh, okay, dive. But I love that like a whole hour and a half later, they call back to in like a perfect way. Like it was so well done. And that whole scene of them getting to the boat and everything like that. And you just see first the little girl when she runs by, they do in such a good way because you don't know what it is, but you know it's not a monster. So you're like, I'm like, oh man, is there like another hybrid of like aliens or something like that? Are we getting into some what do they call in Jurassic World? Evolved or what are they?
An Indo.
They're hybrids, aren't they? Though over
They're
there,
hybrids, yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is a hybrid alien. Oh no, but then just this little girl's on her knees and she puts like the anchor around his neck and stuff, and then that whole scene where these creepy guys are just like looking at them and everything.
Oh, that wasn't an anchor. Do you know what that was?
What was the title of the boat, right?
No, it was just like she tightened a rope around his neck, but it was connected to a bunch of glass bottles so he'd make noise. That's why he managed to make the noise and throw it on the other guy and drag him, which was amazing. He stabs him in the leg and just uses him as bait. Oh.
Thank you, because I was trying to figure out, I was like, I must have missed a shot or something, because if you listen to the preamble before this podcast, my car would try to power save. So every once in a while, the car would turn off and I have to turn it on, and then these lights would turn on and everyone would be pissed. But luckily, I wasn't alone and we would turn off quickly. But that was one of the scenes where it happened. So I must have missed that, because I was like, why is he just not moving so much? That's why I thought, okay, there's something to it. I must have just missed it.
Yeah, every time he'd move, he'd like, you could hear the bottles rattle a little bit, so he'd stop.
And I was wondering too, like, who the fuck just left all these bottles on the dock? You know, like that's really convenient. But then at once I had a feeling, I didn't know that was around his neck, but I had a feeling that, okay, maybe those guys brought it with them. I knew, okay, it wasn't just a convenient thing. But that set piece was so good of the dive. She dives, he shakes the bottles. The aliens are just tearing through everybody. He ties the guy out, like he said, stabs him. He dives, but it's still like attached to his neck. And there's just one shot that's so good when he's underwater and the guy's getting killed. All you see is like the bottles and blood falling on the water. Oh my God, that was so well done. Like, I don't know what scene particularly in this movie, but if one makes it as far as a best scene nom, I think this would be it. Because like I said too, I was worried the whole time she was going to get kidnapped, and it was just that was going to be the end of the movie. And it's like, we've been here before, and I like that. I think these characters might come back if we get part 3, because Killian Murphy made it sound like there's a lot of people that are bad, but I just from start to finish, that set piece of the docks, just so well done. Just the tension that whole time was like you could feel it in. I wasn't even in a room, but you could feel it in the drive-through, which we should have said, I guess, for reviews. Me and Taylor saw us at drive-through because our Canadian theaters aren't open until June 15th, hopefully. So, but you could just feel it, even in cars. You could just feel like, oh my God, this is dreadful, you know.
Those moments whenever there's loud noise and you just they showcase these things like charging full on, it's so terrifying. And like when it was just running through the dock and just not like slashing them side by side, there's something I wanted to call out on, because I was looking at some of the information from the first one, like the newspaper articles and stuff like that, and just stuff that John Krasinski was listing out as like weaknesses and everything. So now we know, obviously, sound. They can't swim, which is another interesting thing. And now the other thing too is he has on his whiteboard attacks and fire. He has on his whiteboard attack and packs with a question mark, but he circles it. You don't actually ever see them attacking in groups in the first one, but that dock boat scene was the first time you see them attack together, which I thought was really interesting. And you actually see, I took it as the one was trying to help the other one because it was in the water and it could tell that it was in distress. Because it jumped on the boat because it heard the noise, but it wasn't like aggressively trying to attack it. It looked like it was trying to
more concerned with saving.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting. And I like that, again, we're getting more in tidbits of information about these things, especially where they come. They didn't obviously land off, like as soon as the asteroid didn't hit first and then they spread, they were literally falling off of that asteroid, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about, the opening scene, and that was really interesting. Like, I love that sub, like the pain the baseball, and then everyone just sees it and hears the sound and the stuff's falling, and it's great because you could honestly just think like maybe it's a airplane crash or something like that, right? Like it doesn't look right away like, oh look, mega ships here, we're being taken over. It just looks like, okay, this literally could be planes colliding something. And I love like they drop the game and everything like that. And that's really the question of why are these things here? And it to me didn't look like a choice per se. It looked like these things have come from a different planet accidentally, whether it's like Clark Kent style, like, hey, this planet's going. I don't know as far as how they got here, because I would feel it's somehow a mistake of like a planet or they're on an asteroid, something coming down, because they don't look like they're the type of aliens that are driving ships, or like they still like they're aliens, but they look very animalistic still.
Yeah,
the way they act.
I agree. They're not something that is basically technologically advanced. Whatever they were on, I'm assuming, was a piece of rock or debris. These things are bulletproof and they have an exoskeleton, so they can clearly, I would think they could live in space or handle it. And
just hanging on for life in that ride into Earth.
Yeah. I feel like, again, you're dealing with something that's evolved to become the apex predator in its environment. So these things, I mean,
probably don't have water where they are.
No, definitely not. So I like that scene because like they go in water, but like they've got no fear of it because they never experienced it before. So they just sink and drown. I would think they would drown. I'm assuming water would probably leak in through their face into their mouth. But again, that's another thing. They never eat what they kill. They just kill things. So that's interesting too. Like, what is that purpose for?
Well, I wonder if they're just like almost like when you say apex predator and that sort of way to live there, they have to just conquer and take out things, to like. And that's the thing. Like you've seen Arrival with Amy Adams, right?
Yeah.
I think they got to go that route of we learn a lot about that race, but still at the same time it's kept quiet. That's different because that's one movie. We're never getting a sequel. But I think even the third one, like, do you necessarily, when we get part 3, like, here we go, here's our 10-minute exposition scene of what these things are, or do you always want to be left like kind of a secret? Because I feel like for me in this franchise with these type of aliens, if it is just a by chance thing, I think it's better if they never explain it. I'm fine if they defeat these aliens, they could do autopsies, find weakness, but this whole like I just don't know if it would fit this universe movie to get the full on, oh, this is why they're here or how they're here. Like, I just think it's something that they came to Earth, maybe they destroyed some stuff, but eventually we defeat them and we just never know what happened. I don't know if I need an answer because I don't know if the answers I like. I don't think the answer will ever be good for what we could have in our mind. I like having this mysterious thing because, especially in this movie, we see them a lot more than we did in the first one. The first one, they're hidden quite a bit. This one, from right away, they're all over this movie because once you've seen them once, you got to show it off. So for me, just to keep some mystery, I don't think I need an answer of planet, why they're here, what happened. Their weaknesses, sure, maybe some stuff about their biology, sure, but the actual, how and why, I don't need that. But where are you on that? Like with part 3, if we get that, which we probably should.
Again, at part 3, yes, please. I want to see this continue. I don't think we need all the answers. Again, I would love to have all the answers, but I don't think we need it. I think what we need is them to do some more exposition, kind of alluding and showing off like more specifics and details about them, but we don't necessarily need to know their origin. I don't need them to get to the military base in the third one, boot up the telescope and be like, that's the planet they came from or something like that.
You see the predators fighting them.
You see the predators fighting them. Yeah. I would just like to know, I would like to see a little bit more of like the incident, like widespread, because we obviously see newspaper articles about how the military has lost, and that's something I find interesting. Like it says like death angels, and like when these things hit, and they hit hard in this movie at the beginning, I don't see how they were able to print all this stuff on newspapers without making noise, and then have a guy on a bicycle throwing the newspapers in this town that's already been killed off on day one. Like, how does Krasinski get the newspaper articles with that? It's just weird.
It's interesting because I didn't have time to watch part 1 before this. I was so wanting to, but honestly, I think I'm going to watch part 1 even next week because I really like it. Because another thing, it's too bad they're already doing it, and I guess I wouldn't want him to do it because it's the same thing. But man, John Krasinski, this and the first one just have such Last of Us vibes. It's not even that it's not even because the monsters have the clickers, but just the way he makes characters look, the way they act and talk, even that Killian Murphy is. How like the way everything's like rusted and old and like moss all over it. It's so much like Last of Us. So like again, they're doing the show. Whoever's doing it, I hope you have half the talent Krasinski does, because he would have been perfect. Now I'm gonna be like,
just get him, get John on there to do it.
Yeah, but it's almost the same thing, right? Like the clickers are very similar. The dad, like it's like he'd be doing the same movie over again. So, but it was same thing. Like I was thinking, because the first movie, we didn't know, like you said, we had those clippings and whatnot, but to me, it almost felt like, and this is why we have to watch, it felt like if you and I were on the news, right? Or we were on the news, but we were here in Kelowna, and then we saw, hey, these things landed in Mexico, and they're tearing this apart, and we found out the information, and then they started to come to us. That's how I took it. But in this movie, it puts forward that their town, maybe it hit multiple places at once, but at least their town was one of the first points of impact to get this to happen, right? Like, even if like, one of the aliens landed there, one of them landed in Canada, one of them landed in Italy. This, where they live, was one of the first instances. So that same thing of like, did they tear through there and then go away and then come back? Like, was there a moment where this day happens, day 1, all goes shit, lots of people die, but then these things moved on and they were back to normal life for like a few weeks or something, and then they came back? I really don't know, and that's obviously kind of the fun of it. But at the same time, it's like, it does propose like, okay, how did this happen? Like, even then, how were people functioning in their normal lives? Like you said, printing newspapers, stuff like that. Even like newscasters, it's like, how do they have time to get on the news and do these things? I don't know. And I agree with you that I think I would like more of, I don't know, day 50, like somewhere in the middle. I think that's what I'm more interested in, is not so much of like the aliens' origins, just like, hey, how did they take down Earth? And like, what do other places of the Earth look like? Like I said, what does like a Mexico look like right now? What does a Canada look like? What is,
Well, I would say that on that front, I think it's interesting because I'm just look at the newspaper articles again. They say U.S. military defeated, Wall Street wiped out. Whatever
that headline.
You're shitting yourself.
U.S.
That's not
military
what you want to see.
Defeated, just flat out defeated. They've lost.
The sub headline to that is "We can no longer protect you." So that's the icing on top. That'd be the worst newspaper of all time to read. Oh
man, I didn't remember that. That's great. Yeah, that's a throw in the that's if I don't have a family. That's like a, well, I had a good run, like I'm just gonna sit
Yeah.
here and like, because honestly too, like I've thought about this too. It's like I guess you don't want to make too much noise, but technically, if I were in my house right now, not to go outside and just sit in here, I'd be fine, right? It'd be the like when I run out of food and stuff, that's when I'm screwed, But like
Mhm.
technically, if I'm in this house not making noise, they're never gonna come to me. I'm fine, but it's when you run
Mhm.
out of stuff that's the real problem.
On the note of other places in the world, I think so. This large asteroid is flying over North America, crash lands. I think these things eventually it seems like okay, prominently in America, in this town, it gets hit hard. I think eventually, after a long period of time, they make their way to South America, beyond Mexico, but yeah, South America. Then they get all the way to the north, Canada, Alaska, all that stuff. I think it literally consumes the continent. Now, something that I noticed we don't see, and I'm curious about is this something that spreads to Europe? Because it's a separate continent. So what if Europe is completely unscathed? And this thing, obviously, I'm assuming when it came down, it crashed over, maybe landed in the ocean. Maybe it didn't even fly over any European countries. But if we have the sense that, okay, a island is safe, and this is a fairly large island with roads on it, that none of them managed to fall onto, which is pretty interesting. I would dare say that maybe Europe, parts of Europe, or even the UK, which is being an island, like maybe it's safe. Japan, Ireland, like all those places. There's so much opportunity out there.
Unless something landed there too, right? That's the thing that we
Yeah.
don't know is like how, and that's what I'm assuming because I feel like, so like, okay, yeah, to me, I take the Watchmen approach of yes, so many countries have problems with one another, but in Watchmen, the comic book, when they assume that hey, aliens are invading, they go, well, we got to get together no matter what, all countries. So I feel like, yeah, no matter what state in the world, like I don't know if I can buy some of the Europe countries wouldn't be, I don't know, helping at all because you go, what do you do in the
Oh,
situation?
they read that newspaper, the military defeated. They're like, no, we can't do shit for you guys.
I would hope that they would try to find even like, I don't know, flying copters over to try and pick up people or something. I know that makes sound, but like, I don't know, like I would hope that you try to do something because I don't know that, but that's thing. I do hope that we get more of that. I do think this world too, because I know he said Krasinski said there's been a script turned in, but he never actually said for part 3 specifically. So I specifically. So I think that this world could even spawn spin-offs and whatnot, and I think that I'd be down for that because I think you got one more story with this family, and I think that so once you get to the radio broadcast, what is like what's next, like because I feel like I guess what is it, just to find a way to make that signal bigger, like is that what it is, like because I feel like again it's much like the first one where it's like okay, we don't technically need another one, we do for the character's sake because like we said they're left and they're separated, so you want that reuniting moment and everything like that, like Game of Thrones and Jon Snow and Sansa and stuff like that. But like I don't like, what do you picture like a part 3 other than our characters have to reunite obviously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like as far as it goes, them reuniting, I think that'll probably be a very quick thing at the beginning. But like I think it'll come down to them, like they can't focus on them just staying on that island. I think they're gonna try and go out and like boost that signal somehow.
Like
But I
Mars
don't.
attacks.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna like necessarily go about it, but it'll be interesting because I think we'll get some more exposition. I think we're gonna have them kind of go off for whatever reason to boost that signal because it's I mean not everyone's gonna be playing a radio. I mean,
Well, yeah. So I got a theory, and I'm gonna share that theory after this ad break. And we're back. So my theory is, so we have that great headline of military's lost, we can't help you. But I imagine, like we said, if maybe it's another country, and maybe that's the case, if there is, this where it's a big if, but if there is any form of military working in the States or in a different country, I feel like what could happen is they somehow get picked up, like they hear about that this radio signal can do this, and maybe they go to the, like, that's where you get a copter, that's where you get a team somehow getting this island and meeting with our main characters, be like, okay, what did you do and how could we do that? And the other reason is when we're talking about like the military falling, what happened to other countries, what's happening in day 50, if you were to introduce a military character, and please do not make him or her like the generic, like he's an asshole, he's evil. Just make him like, hey, like Aaron Taylor Johnson and Tenet, make him that like, hey, I'm here to help, like let's get this job done. Like obviously they were hiding some stuff, but they're hiding stuff from John Day Washington because they had to. I just mean like the character, like no matter what, I'm here to help, let's get this done. I would like that character because you could get flashbacks of their side of being in the military or seeing it go down, or even if you got a character from a different country, you could see this happening, you know? So that's my pitch of I could see it going down as they get wind of this is working. They go to the point of origin. They talk with our main characters. How can we get this done? It's tough because once you get into the big military stuff, it's like, well, how would Emily Blunt's character be involved, right? Because I feel like with her baby, she's not gonna be like, okay, I'm suiting up to join you. It's like, no,
she'll be the CEO. She'll be high-ranking officer.
I don't think so. She would sit back. So that's why I think my theory would probably be wrong because I think it'll be something smaller. But then maybe it's something like there's two things of one, again, this island might need food, but two, eventually, like I don't know how hearing aids work, but is like, would that hearing be good for life, or is there a chance that it could like break down?
You'd have to
recharge
it, but I mean, I think it would break down at some point, but I feel like they could replace it because all you have to do is like you could replicate that signal. I mean, it's just a high, very intense frequency. I mean, you could download a YouTube video of a shrieking noise that would hurt. You could get a dog whistle, like stuff like that you can play with, right? They discovered that by accident, and it was all that they had. Some poor
soul with a dog whistle just
blowing for his life.
Just blowing. Okay, you take over. Or even then, I thought they had two mics. Like, couldn't you literally just put two mics together and have the same sort of high frequency deal? Like the way when we're recording, if you have like a microphone and headphones sometimes right beside each other, you can really mess it up. So it's like, they are in a broadcast like radio room. I feel like there's enough gear in there to replicate that, you know? So
there is, there was, they could, it was the general idea. And that's always something that kind of throws me sideways is I'm kind of surprised that this idea wasn't explored by the military or anything, because like, again, like I can understand like the aggressiveness and how crazy they are at first to deal with, that you can't necessarily come to a conclusive weakness to exploit. But I feel like if the military was engaging with these things for a long period of time and was failing, I feel like if the bullets aren't doing it, you would look at other ways to exploit it. And I feel like seeing and observing them, which humans do, you would have caught on to a weakness to that. Unless they just abandoned and pulled out of the America completely and left people to fend for themselves. I don't know. It's just...
Yeah, but at the same time, you say they're trying weapons, but the same, like they were, but I just feel like, because when they even say like we lost as a military, they like, even though it's been a while, they might have not had time, as far as they might have just always been getting attacked and all in the like the background, right? Like it's like same thing, like our main characters find this out accidentally, right? It's not like they have this big idea and stuff like that. So I think that's where it is. It's tough because you would think like even though I'm not in the military, I think you would think like, hey, let's get as much firepower as possible instead of, okay, let's try, you know what worked in Spider-Man 3, let's try that. Like, Venom, let's try that. You're right that they might try to get to that point, but maybe at that point, because we said, we don't have an exact timeline of it all going down. So at that point, they maybe would have got some options, but if there's so little manpower, it's like, well, we just got to fend for ourselves now. Like there definitely was a point at some point where the military broke off and it was like, well, you just got to get to your families and everyone just has to try and survive. And we got to hope for the best, which is like, I was always like, oh, well, yeah. Cause I'd say to Emily, like, not that I'd want to go this route, but like, and it worked out bad for him because of the ending, but you've seen The Mist, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I totally get Thomas James' perspective though, of like, there's that one moment when he steps in the bear trap and he's just screaming. And before Killian Murphy shows up, it's like, this monster is just going to come and tear you and then tear your kids and your baby in pieces in front of you. And it's just like, I don't want these kids to die. But at the same point, it's just like, that's why in The Mist, when it came to that point, it's like a gunshot to the head is a lot more peaceful than what this monster thing might be. And like, luckily, like I wouldn't do that because like, you got to fight for your family. But there's come to a point when you have this baby, it's just like, what would you do? Like, what would you do? It's like, this is like the worst case scenario. And even then, like, if there's no end of the light of the tunnel, like, would you even want a kid to grow up in that? Like, is that much of a life? Like, yeah, sure, you're keeping this baby alive, but like, if they're 5 and these monsters are still around, it's like, what is the point? But like, and like in all disaster movies, your point is you're hoping something will happen, you're hoping something will be found, somehow it'll be taken out. But it's like, man, this this seems like such a shit life. Like this is super
Mhm.
depressing and everything like that. But
Mhm.
let's talk a little bit more. You said you like Killian Murphy. What did you like about him?
Yeah, I really felt bad for him. He just felt like he was a
Oh,
defeated
yeah.
character again. Like he was blackmailed by Emily Blunt, and again the daughter, because the daughter's like throwing shade at him, and he's like, God, I just want to go back to my little hole in the ground and not have to deal with anything because I don't have any supplies for anybody. Just really feel for the guy, but yeah, I loved him playing, like, I don't want to say the redeeming hero, because as we got to see, like, they were living upstairs in that building and his wife obviously died up there where she was very sick, and I feel really
A
bad
poor
for him. But
kid.
that poor kid. Yeah, I do feel like this. I don't want to say redeeming like he did something bad, but I feel redeeming in the sense that he's just so isolated and alone, but he's now doing the right thing. He is trying to find a way to give hope. Like he says to that one guy at the island, he's like, are you here because of hope? I'm like, no, giving it. Like,
Hmm.
I love that. And again, he was just he was just such an awesome character when he's teamed up with the girl. Um,
That moment too, I didn't buy it, but like I liked how long they sell that moment that she actually thought he stole her shit and like left her.
he
I
stole
was
that
like,
hearing aid. It was like very prized
yeah,
possession he needed.
yeah, like I got it because she is a little girl, so it's fun. But I was like, this didn't happen. Like he didn't just
Mhm.
like we didn't just meet this character and be like, yeah, fuck, taking your shit, little girl. Like it
Mhm.
was like I don't at all. So I don't even know if that was needed, but it was fine. But yeah, like I think his arc worked in two ways because even the girl says to him, as far as like, you wanted to make a difference, but this is the first thing you can actually do to make a difference, you know? And like,
Yeah.
and that would make sense. Like he had, I think they said three, they said the boys, I think he had either 2 or 3 sons. So it's like clearly they all died and then his wife got sick. Poor John Krasinski's son finds, you know, the dead skeleton of his wife
Oh.
upstairs. That's going to give him nightmares and everything like that. And that's what I was wondered because I was like, I was really worried at some point he was going to go up there and the boys would be up there too. And I was going to be like, oh no, is he actually fucked up? Like, is he lying? Because the way they, and luckily they were just pacing it as like, oh, there's a monster there. But when they're being very cagey and he was like slowly going through stuff, I'm like, oh no, like even him keeping the wife's body there is like, you didn't bury the body. I know you don't want to make a sound, but like, I feel like you could bury that body pretty quietly, you know, but fair enough. But yeah, so like that, as far as he wanted to do something, obviously defeated quite a bit and taken down. And two, it's just, I kind of felt like he kind of came to that realization that he doesn't have anything to live for. So it's just like, why not do this? like
Yeah.
what's he's just gonna go back and like he's gonna go back and die where he is, right? Like that's almost what his mission is. So it's like, well, if you're gonna die, do it while possibly helping this girl or saving other people. So I think he kind of had that realization of like, yeah, if I'm gonna kill myself, may as well be for something. So I liked his
Mhm.
little arc. I like that he's alive. So I like that he'll be in the third one. I because spoke to Emily that the reason she left her ring on Krasinski's ring is because she's going to bang Killian Murphy. I really hope they don't go that route. I hope they just keep them as friends and stuff like that. And like, I could see too. Another thing in my pitch for part 3 is what if that hearing aid they have on the radio thing and it does jump like 2 years later, but then that hearing aid does finally die and then they go and for some reason they can't make another high frequency, then they go, okay, what do we do now? You know, that I could see that being a thing, or they got to go and find some sort of replacement for a hearing aid. But yeah, so I hope if they carry on, they just say friends that's been through a lot. I don't need some sort of romantic relationship. They've both lost their partners, and I trust John Krasinski not to do that. But many films do that. Like
He
lots
wants
of
to
they
see
just
another man with his wife. That's what he wants.
hey, some directors do that. You know, there's a long track record. Look at Judd Apatow. He has a bunch. That's all his movies. Leslie Mann is with some other dude. You know, but like. So yeah, I did really like him. I'm like you as far as 28 Days Later and Batman Begins. I'd seen those kind of back to back, and Killian Murphy's just he's one of those guys that majority of people don't know his name. Taylor didn't even know his name, but
Nope.
he's a fantastic actor. Like he always shows up for what he's in. So I'd be down to see him more. And I liked Emily Blunt in this movie, other than a few scenes with her son, like you pointed out, and that saying goodbye to John Krasinski. I felt like she sat in the backseat of this movie, not in a
Yeah.
bad way, but just like it felt like it felt like everybody had more screen time than her, like her son, the daughter, Killian Murphy, and that's fine. She was a big part of the first one, but I hope for the third one, then if they get the community and the baby can be safe, because I think that's the problem. We've talked about that before, and like Dexter or Walking Dead, when you introduce a baby, a lot of times you have these characters tied down them, and she has to be, right? Because she's the mother and there's a baby around, so that's what she's gonna be doing. But I hope in the next movie, if you can have that baby safely pawned off to somebody to watch, she could be doing a bit more. And she still did a lot. Like, I'm not saying that. It just felt like she was in it less, to be honest. Like, that's what it really felt like to me, even though she was around a lot. Like, she said bye Krasinski, she helped her son with the injury, she went and got that shit, she did the whole shooting of the gas tanks, and that was really it. Like, that's all the things she did, and they go on for quite a while. But and I still liked her. She's still great actress, did a good job. So, but I just remember the first one just feeling like even Krasinski wasn't the main character. It felt like she was almost, I felt like they either shared it or she was the main character, because obviously he dies off, right? And she kind of takes over for that back half, and she has the pregnancy. So maybe that's just it. Maybe she just had so much stuff in the first one that in this one it feels smaller, but really it's just a regular role. So
with Killian Murphy, that again, just touching on his relationship with the daughter, that scene in the train where the daughter went in there and she got spooked. I love when movies play with your peripheral vision, and when she fell back, and it's that kind of sense, like you can sense that there's something we don't know, and like she leans back and you just see the blurry, like long arms moving, and it's just so good because this girl can't hear them.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but when I saw that, I was like, man, we shot something very similarly for a movie not too long ago. You remember that one scene? I was like, right when because it's so funny, and not that we're just started making a movie, but there's a shot very similar when she fell back. I was like, oh, I know this shot because we just filmed something like this. I was like, I liked it, and like you said, she's at the disadvantage, she can't hear anything. I love that she had the shotgun, and it's just like a rocket gun that just shoots regular. Like, no, that shotgun would fucking tear her, like her socket would be gone. Like, it'd still be there, but like a shotgun that size with a
one-handed.
Yeah, that's what like she literally just like lifted it up. I was like, just shooting it. I was like, okay, I get it, it's fine. But I just laughed. Like, I've seen grown men like get their like shoulders separated if they're like holding it loosey goosey, and it's like, you're telling me that this is gonna happen. But it's fine. Killian made the save and everything like that. So imagine if Killian just died right there. He went up for no reason, and then and same way I wonder about Emily Blunt, and they've been gone for a long time, so she probably just thinks they're dead, so
yeah.
Oh god. What else? We've talked about Killian, talked about daughter, we talked about let's see, and I guess I'll show this. Another scene I like too is when she is the I gotta find out their character's name. I'm so bad at it, but the daughter is telling the brother that she's gonna go, and he's like, I'm gonna tell mom, like whatever you do, and he did. He told the mom right away, but then she's just like, I have to do something, and he's like, yeah, dad said the same thing, and look where he is. And I felt that was the first time they actually got to mourn their dad, because like clearly, because Krasinski died and then their farm got taken down and they just had to be on the run, right? So I feel like
it's still within 12 hours of that, right?
I feel like this was the first time, because when they say that, they both kind of are quiet for a second, no pun intended. And I feel like it's the first time I realized, like, oh man, our dad's dead. Like, he's like gone. Like, there's no coming back. Where before it was like, go, go, go. This is the first time, like, Jesus, and also the other thing I'll shout out too in that scene of everybody like talking and whatnot. I liked when Emily Blunt was like, did you see the fire? And he's like, yes. And she's like, did you ever think of coming for us? And in my head, I'm like, please, I want him to say no. I want him to say no. And he said no. And he gave a good reason of like, I just can't trust people. Like, he just said people have gone bad since this thing, pretty much just inferring of like, hey, yeah, like we were friends, but I didn't want to risk, going over there and you guys being fucking crazy people now and taking my wife or my kids and stuff like that. And to me, that made complete sense of like, yeah, you maybe want to try and go over to the fire, but same thing if he's like, he had that benefit if he told her of like, you've been on the farm, you've just been by yourselves, you haven't seen the things that happen out here. And she was sick and died, his wife, but I thought that was going to be a reveal too, that these people had maybe actually taken his wife, but that wasn't it. So I wonder what they did, that maybe they just took his supplies or something. I wonder what they did, because he seemed pretty, not frightened, but very like, he was pretty serious when he was talking about these people he had bumped into, right? So clearly some bad shit had happened. So I wasn't sure if maybe that's how some of the kids got even killed. We don't know if the monster, he just said that the kids got, that they're gone, so it just seemed like these people were not to be trifled with. It wasn't just, hey, they beat them up.
Yeah, well, on that note, I mean, we know that there were several towers around that Krasinski was keeping tabs on with fires, right?
Mhm.
So we know there's several people. Maybe he ventured out to some of these other places and he got to see firsthand, like, okay, like it didn't go well with them, like bad people killed them, or maybe they became bad people and he killed them. I mean, there's so much possibilities there.
Resident Evil 7 type people, you know?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One thing to note before we get too far, it's going back to the military thing. I like the idea of them being on the island because you could have the military swing by on like an aircraft carrier or a destroyer where they pick up that signal. So I think that's a possible future possibility.
I feel like and I could be completely wrong because these movies have stayed very small, even though this budget's bigger. Like we said, it's a pretty simple movie, but I just feel like you do kind of have to introduce the military a little bit or whatever is out there left. It's very much like we were talking about Last of Us, how they eventually, like in the first game you play, and then in the middle section they introduce the Fireflies that are like a spin-off of the government that are trying to figure out the situation, and they have doctors and all these things and stuff like that. Like I feel like you need that sort of group that's like, it's a not on this island, it's a containment of whether it's military that's left, whether it's people that have, I don't know if that's just their one goal is finding out stuff in the country. I feel like there has to be some sort of, you know, if not in this, then maybe if they ever did a spin-off about other characters or other things about this world, I would like to see it down the line.
Yeah.
So, and it's because it reminds me, I like that we got day one in this and we saw a little bit of it, but one of my favorite flashbacks in I Am Legend is when they have to leave the island and you got to see how the military worked there and how they, like Will Smith's wife was sick, but because he was a government, like let her through and stuff. Like I'd love to see that, but in the quiet place, like see what that was like, you know, in that like military, or you know, I want to see the day that they had to write that headline and like they're just in the newsroom like, oh man, this sucks, eh?
Yeah, the military can no longer protect you.
Yeah. What else? Because I think I have most of my notes done.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of what else there was. The score, I love the score. Again, it touched upon like tidbits of like the original, which was really, really nice.
Especially the ending was really well done. When they both had their slow-mo moments, and you know, that girl kills someone with a podcast stand, a mic stand, you know, good for her.
Is that what that was, a mic stand?
Yeah, because I asked him the same thing, and what is that? But when it falls back, you can see there's like the little handle. So that's a sharp fucking mic stand. But
I like the podcast shout out. It was good. The microphone just hanging there. Like that was a cool call out. Yeah, what else? Yeah, just their execution of them. I thought that was great. Yeah. I feel like we've pretty much covered most of it.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think, like we've touched on everything at the beginning, the flashback, like they showed, like I feel like other than that stuff to be in the ball game, lots of that stuff was in the trailer, which was fine. You just saw it all spliced together, but that poor cop, good guy. He saved.
Oh yeah, that scene, like again, like I love the whole escape scene when they were separated and they were trying to like connect. That was crazy. But when they were running and they're running straight towards the cop, and that cop put up such a damn good fight. Oh shit.
Oh yeah. Well, he knew too. I felt like he knew he was dying, but I feel like he's like trying to give this guy with his kid a chance over him. You know, it's the same thing I would do if like I didn't have kids. And you know, there's so like I feel like it's maybe people would disagree, but the people with children kind of get like, well, we gotta save them first because I gotta take care of these kids. Not like fucking, you know, Army of the Dead. Go check our review there, where people with kids just want to go fucking ham and just throw away their lives. But still like the movie. But this is definitely much better than Army of the Dead as far as some of that logical stuff. But that's what I kind of got from the cop, and I like that. Again, it shows that there's many people that have like been in their lives, few and far in between, but it's like if that cop's not there, Krasinski and her are dead, you know? So it's just like by chance, if that cop doesn't make the sacrifice play, they were none of this, and this family could be dead too.
I won't like rain over your parade of like feeling good about this cop, because I genuinely feel like he wasn't doing it necessarily to save them and give them a fighting chance. I took it as he just saw this thing, he opened fire, and by the 5th shot he realized he was fucked.
He
Because
might
his
have been.
bullets were doing anything. His facial expression is what I'm looking at
He
mostly.
definitely did, but I just felt like there was like the timing of they're running out, and then that's when the cop comes. I think you're right. He's just spraying and praying. He's just hoping for like I'm gonna kill this thing. So like it was like I think he would have done it either way. But here's my question: is if Krasinski and that kid wasn't running out and he had a chance to hide, I think he would have stayed hidden. But because Krasinski and the kid were running, we don't know where he came. He was just from the car, right? So, but you're right. You get to be taken to as like he was just trying to unload, and unfortunately, those kids just had to hear him get like sliced to pieces, and that didn't go well. And I guess it kind of sets up to like obviously the government like shows and gets to them that noise is a factor, but Krasinski being in that whatever convenience shop, knowing and seeing that sound sets him off. He gets like a firsthand experience of like, okay, really, like we were fine until the cell phone went off, and then that created everything, right? So
yeah, that's another thing too. Like in the first movie, it's just these people running and they're creating a ruckus and kerfuffle and everything. But like in this, like it's the detail that they put in these creatures in the sense where when they run out of that back of that restaurant or whatever, and the thing comes out behind them, it doesn't, the detail of it not seeing where they are, but it's hearing their footsteps and it's moving its head around. Like it's so eerie. And that's another thing I want to point out too, was when I can't remember his name, Red Eye Man, Scarecrow saves
Killian Murphy.
That's the one. He saves them in that warehouse that is like in his area. And when they're running through the tubes and the metal like machinery and everything, and this thing's just making noise and it's like trying to find them as it hears something's there and it can't distinguish where they are. It's just terrifying.
Yeah, they did a good job, because I always worried like if you show too much of the creatures, are they still going to be as scary? I still feel like they show it sometimes a little too much, but like I said, you kind of have to do that once you show it. You have to make it even more menacing. I think for the majority of the time they do a good job, because those like they feel different than type of other aliens or monsters, and it's all really well done. How are they going to do that in part 3? That'll be the question, because like I said, you always get the 1-2 of like, okay, first Friday the 13th, you don't show Jason, and then you have to show Jason, you just got to make it creative. Now they're in this part where obviously with Friday the 13th, you got to 8, 9, where it's like, okay, he's just Jason. Part, like I said, 3, it's like, okay, you hide the monster, you show it, then what do you do for part 3? That's usually when I feel like we get like the hybrid or the like, oh, this one has 2 heads, you know, like that's what these always do. So I'll be interested to see what they do to try to up it or make it feel different. I don't know, or maybe they go back to basics where it's a bit more hidden again. So
yeah, I do want I keep thinking of all these different like critiques with the island and the boat drifting ashore. Again, I'm not a master of the tides, so I don't know how long it would take for a boat to get there.
I am Taylor,
master of the tides. But needless to say, like logically it would make its way there. That totally makes sense. But I feel like you would need some kind of deterrent. I feel like you would have to expect these things to inevitably drift over there or something. So I feel like, wouldn't it make sense to have some line? So it's a big freaking island, but some line like going around like the bay where they're residing or something like that, or something to deter it, because yeah, the boat got right up to the rock wall. This thing didn't attack them right away. I'm assuming because they were just waking up. It was early in the morning, so no one was making much noise. Yeah. I just think it seems too easy. They didn't have any self-defense.
Well, that's why I just like, again, like I agree with you with the boat. Like it's a little convenient, like them coming over, because still those monsters like had to stand like on the boat too, and then it comes over. So it's like, okay, it didn't fall at any point too. Like these things are good, but they sometimes feel a little clumsy. But still, that's where I didn't like as well too. It's like Killian Murphy, he goes and sees the boat, and then when he gets back, that's the second they're attacking. Like it was still daytime for quite a while, and there was tons of people up. It wasn't like a few people and he's trying to get back. So it's like it literally was like the timing. I was like, this is too convenient. Again, I think they should just had it at night, because like you're saying, even if they had protection, if it was at nighttime, you would believe that, oh, this is why it's a little harder for them, because they can't see shit. Like these things are coming from the dark. Where pure daytime, it's like, okay, these things are so fast, but it's like you can see where they're coming from. You know where they are. Where, like I said, I think they should have just made that set piece nighttime. I really do. But They didn't. I
Well,
think that the ending is the weakest part of the movie. If I have to, I've already said that, but I think there is just a few things where it starts to fall apart. Like, why do they do this and why do they do that? You know, there's a few more. Okay, not as tight as the rest of the movie.
if you make that set piece nighttime, do you have that boat float ashore on the island the same night of that they get there, or do you have it they take the boat during the daytime and they get to the island it's nighttime?
It's it's tough because you'd have to have the nighttime for those creepy people to sneak up on them, right? But I feel like you just said the boats still wash up when it's nighttime. I don't know. Maybe Killian Murphy can't sleep. He's walking, and that's how he sees the boat. You know, like there's many reasons you could do that. You know, he doesn't have to be going asleep. So yeah, I still think they arrive there maybe nighttime, and the creatures still get there nighttime as well. Again, I'm not also a master of the tides, so I don't know how long that would take hours wise. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but it's just like I said, and like you said, they were sleeping, but it was for me just a little convenient that right when he's back there, it goes to shit. You know, it almost would have been better if he had heard it going on and then he runs. But here's him, just even then, he's just yelling like, "Everyone inside, everyone inside!" It's like, well, that's not gonna help the situation.
No.
Like you're being extremely loud. Like what happened? What happened if these things hadn't heard them at all? And obviously, they like in the movie, Killian's running up and he sees them attack. But what happens if it's reversed where he's running up and he's yelling, "Everyone inside!" Yeah, and he lured it. So it's just like, imagine that. Like that's what I mean. Again, I feel like these characters who act very smart for the first act and second act, the third act it gets, well, we need some carnage to happen. So you guys got to make some. I gotta find my family, and then Jaimin Hansu just is fucking gone like a slip and slide. You know, like yeah.
Is that the actor's name? The guy that went out to the garage?
Yeah. He's the Who guy from Guardians.
Oh, right.
Who? Yeah, he's just always, he's like an Aquaman. He's just like a classic. And I felt so bad because I say that, I'm like, he's a classic guy that's like in always bunch of big movies. He's the wizard in Shazam, like the very first one that he meets.
Right. He's always getting killed.
He's always getting killed. He's always in these roles for like 15 minutes, and then there was Hamson. So I was like, "Oh, good, he gets to be the leader of this community." And no, he gets torn apart. So
I do feel bad that I chuckled, but it was genuinely funny.
It was funny. I didn't like it just felt so random, and it just felt like in the middle. Because like I said, even if he has to get his family, like stop yelling, dude. Like just like, and even then, get away from that fucking door. Like just wait a second, see what's out there. But the fact he was like. It felt very.
He was already under the door, like on his own accord, before he got grabbed and dragged.
No, I don't think so. I thought I remember he was standing. The thing
was he fully standing? I felt like he was ready to just go squat and go under there to go.
Either way, you wait it out. You don't just like you look around first. He was going in like backwards, you know. So yeah, I agree. I think it was kind of it felt a little too comedic in my opinion, unintentionally too. So.
I don't have much left to say except that one last moment where the girl was going into the recording room. The whole intensity of that I really, really liked. When he's going through the window.
What's that? And when she goes to step down, it looks like it's gonna be the glass, and she
she pushes the drawer in, and just the intensity of that whole scene, like it was intense.
The door is like needs oil or something like that, so it's super creaky.
And she can't hear the door squeaking, and like, what do you do? Like, I mean, the guy,
he made the sacrifice play.
He Milligan. I don't remember his name. I'm sorry. Killian. That's it. I can't remember. He's got the same name as the Mandarin. Oh my god. Aldrich Killian. He's got the same
Killian. Yeah, he does have, yeah.
But yeah, no, I just think, like you feel for him because, like, what do you do? Yeah, she just opens this door and she la-di-da-di-da just strolls in, has no clue what she just did. But that whole scenario, I had a problem with the fact that she so slowly knew what she had to do, but didn't go to rush to put it on the speaker. Like she could have saved the guy, but she made it seem like there's nothing she could do. She's up against the glass, like, no, like you're gonna die. Like
it's mid attack. Yeah, it again, same thing. There's she making some choices where it's like, okay, we want this to be dramatic, so she's gonna be slow, but it's like, no, you fucking book it over there. Like at that point, making sound's not an issue anymore. This thing is right here. It knows you're here, so you may as well get this on the radio. But she saved him at least, you know.
That, and I will say, when they have that fabric to close that vault in the guy's hideout, I initially did think it was to keep it from making noise. I didn't realize it was to actually like keep you from being locked in.
Yeah. Good thing he did
Yeah.
that, because and what I didn't like too is, so when the boy, he runs and in a, like, he's worried, he goes to close the door and the towel falls, right? And that's how it gets locked. We get the same thing with Emily Blunt, but I wish it would have been something like when she gets in there, she goes to close it and then adjust it, then close it. She closed it and it was literally just by luck, like this time it caught the
Oh
towel.
yeah.
And like, and you that's fine, but I just wish it was like, okay, again, for convenience wise, like we just had this moment where he closed it and missed, and I just feel like you should have been like, okay, he was locked in there, clearly make sure the towel's fine, but just a little, that's a nitpick thing. That doesn't ever affect my final score. It's just like, okay, my final score is more like, yeah, we're gonna let your mom sleep over there for a little bit. Hopefully she's all right with that baby,
Yeah.
and we'll get back to her in the morning.
Yeah.
Unless you have anything to add, you can give your final score out of 10.
I don't think I have. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and, as much as like talking about it, I think we definitely pinpointed some problems. So I won't say it's a perfect movie, but it's like a near perfect movie. So I'm gonna give it like a 9.5 out of 10, because it felt like Last of Us. It had very unique things that made it separate from the first one that made it so successful. So it had a lot of good things. The character development was great. I love that it transitioned over to the kids, and the kids were basically leading the charge for the most part. And we got a lot of good new characters for the most part that are still alive and will reprise their roles. So
not John Hunsu.
No.
His
but
kids will be in the next movie.
Oh yeah, his son will be still in the closet.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He didn't even have the nerve to tell the kid to be quiet. But Killian, like right when the door was closing, had the quick scene of him going like this. But the dad didn't tell him to be quiet. So I just thought that was funny. Yeah, I highly recommend the movie. If you haven't seen it, I think you need to see it. But watch the first one, like Jessica's going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just a little under you. I'm 9. I could maybe bump up to 9.5. This is one I have to watch again, because like I said, right now for my top 2 movies, I had Ray, Last Dragon, and then this a little below. But I said near the end of the year, especially for Golden Geeks, I'll rewatch them. So I could feel swap. It was just, like I said, lots of those little things and the 2 big things of the third act that did have a problem. But other than that, a great movie. I'm very excited to see what John Krasinski does in the future. I hope he does a different movie and then he does part 3. I want to see him direct something else and then come back to this. But if he doesn't want to, that's fine. But John Krasinski is getting to be, at least with these 2 movies, when his name is come up, I'm definitely going to watch what his next project is. Until he does a couple stinkers in a row, he has me in a like a Ari Aster, who else is out there? I'm trying to think of Robert Egger, stuff like that. The guy who did Lighthouse, like that type of, okay, I'm going to be there to watch your movie. So like I said, 9 out of 10, still pretty good score as of right now. Either my second or favorite movie of the year. We've got lots to go, but still, yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this review. If you saw this movie, let us know. Check out our Discord, talk with the other podcasters and listeners and people from GUA. Share if you liked it, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the whole shebang. So whenever you hear from us next, it'll not be boring.
Bye-bye.